Hello everyone, this is Said and welcome to AndrabCodes. Welcome to the lecture 5 of our Python complete course. In this lecture we are going to understand a really important concept of Python programming, that is input function. The input function is the backbone of every program. If you understand this well, you will be able to understand most of the programming sessions in the future as well. In the similar way here, input is the data provided by the user to a Python program during its execution. Consider an example of a calculator. In a calculator, a user has the ability to provide inputs to a calculator program. Say for example, I am writing 2 plus 2. Now what I am actually giving to a calculator is input, that is this 2 plus 2. So whenever I press 2, this input is going to the program of a calculator, and the calculator in return produces the output of that particular input, that is 4. So this 2 plus 2 here is actually the input given by the user to the program of the calculator, to a program of calculator, and a calculator in return produces the output 4. In the similar way, consider an example of a keyboard. We can give commands to our computer system using the keyboard here. So all those types of commands are actually inputs that are given to a computer system, and then in return computer has the ability to give us particular output. Now why it is required? Say for example, in our previous sessions we were able to create a variable simply by typing the name of the variable, assignment operator, and then in between we write our name, and in between we provide our name. That's it. This is the way of creating a static variable. Now what I mean to say here is that this variable name will only be able to hold a particular value, that is Said, and this can't be modified unless you will change it in the program itself. Outside of the program, from the user's end, you cannot change it. Say for example, I'm creating a variable, then we would write print and the variable name. Now this is a static program. Why? If we try to run it, what will we get? We just receives an output, that is this Said. Now tell me, here's a question. Can we actually change the value of Said by providing any user's input here? Is it possible that I will write a particular name here? Say different users have different names. So different users should be able to type their name, and that name should be printed in the output screen. Let's create a better version of it by creating an input function so that the users will be able to provide their particular input and the program produces the output on that particular input. Let's move forward. Say for example, I would write the same name equals to, but wait, I will make some changes here. I will use input function. After that, I will use parenthesis. In the parenthesis, I will write a message, that is enter your name. That's it. Now see the difference here. Here I am passing or assigning this Said into a variable called name. But in this line, I am allowing the user to enter any kind of name that should be passed in the name variable. This is a static variable. This is not a static variable actually here. Whatever the user passes in this variable will be stored in the name variable. Then simply I will write print name. That's it. Now see the difference. Initially, remember the program, what happens? Simply the name of my variable got is displayed on the screen. Now let's remove it and now try it. Now when we run the program, see what happens. Enter your name. Now the program asks the user to enter any kind of name. Okay, say for example, I will write Jack. Now what is printed on the screen? The exact input that is provided by the user. In the earlier program, I am not able to modify the name of the variable as its static variable. I am passing the value directly to the variable, but here I am allowing the user to pass the value to a variable. This is the importance of the input function. Let's make a program little bit better here by writing something called as \n. Now what will happen because of this? It will allow us to type our input in the next line. See the difference? Let's run our program again. Enter your name. And now see, I don't have to type it exactly in the same line. Now it creates a new line for me. That's the importance of \n. Now we will simply write my name, say for example Mark, and my name will be displayed on the screen. The variable has the ability to store any kind of name depending upon the user's input. That's how important is your input function in Python programs. Now, say for example, I am creating another variable with the name age. Okay, simply write input and then enter your age in the double quotes. Sorry, enter your age. Let's see, capital. Okay, control and again \n. That's it. Print name and then print age. Okay, let's save it and let's try to run the program again. See what happens first. Enter your name, say for example John. Next will be enter your age. So whatever age you will write here, it will go directly into what variable? This age variable. Say for example 39. And here what will be displayed on the screen? That my name is John and my age is 39. See the importance of this program. Now you can display the name and age of any individual, depends upon the user's input. Unlike if you directly assign the values to those two variables like we did it in the previous programs, like name equals to Said and age equals to 27. Those are static variables. Now this program will only work for Said and for the age 27. But with this approach, using the input function, you can actually display the information of any candidate. Cool. Now let's remove this, and I have to explain another important concept here, that this input function always returns a string. What? This input function always returns a string. What a string is? What do you mean by string? String is the data type that stores only the textual information. So remember a rule that whenever you work with strings, you have to use this syntax, that is input, enter your name, and this \n for the new line. But whenever you are working with non-string values like integer, float, or any other data type, you have to mention the data type before this function. How? We will simply start the bracket we will simply start the brackets, and in the bracket I will mention the type of the data that is going to be stored in this variable called age, int. Then after that I will start another bracket that is for the input function, and then in the end I will close those two brackets. See the difference here? Since the input function always returns a string, so I do not need to convert this string to a variable that will be going to store a string value only. Here, type conversion is required in input only when you are working with non-string values. That is age, that will be any number such as of integer, float, those values that are numerical numbers and are not string values. So what is the syntax here is, you have to start the brackets, you have to mention the data type, the type of data that is going to be stored in a particular variable. Age is a integer value, since it is going to store positive value, it is going to store a non-decimal value, so that's why I am writing int here. Cool. Now what is actually the importance of it? Because initially we saw that even before adding this integer before this input function, our program still runs, right? See, John and 39, our program still runs. Then what is the importance of this? I will explain it in the later programs, but now say for example let's add another variable, height. What is height? What type of data type it is? Height is float. Exactly. Height is float. And then float variable is height. Then after that start your input function. In the text, enter your height. Enter your height. Right? Simple. After that, print here height. Also add backslash n here too. That's it. Now let's make a program a little bit more visually appealing by simply writing in the double quotes, your name is, in the double quotes, your age is, and then your height is. Remember to actually what? Add commas between them. CLS and okay, see, enter your age, John. Enter your age, 55. Enter your height, 5.4. See, your name is John, your age is 55, your height is 5.4. Whatever is in between those double quotes is printed as it is, and the value of the variables will be printed here because they are not enclosed within the double quotes. We have already discussed this during the print statements. Now let's create another program for addition of two numbers. Okay, for the addition of two numbers. Adding two numbers. Say for example, I'm creating a variable with the name number 1. After that, I'm simply writing, say for example, input, enter first number backslash n, right? After that, create another variable, number to similar field we will be using this again and enter second number. Right, now we have to add those two. So we will simply say create another variable, that is result, and we will add those two, that is number 1 plus number 2. Got it? Now in the end we will simply print what? A result. Now let's see what happens. It's very important. Let's see what happens. Let's run our program. Enter first number, say for example 2. Enter second number, for example 3. The result should be 5. What is result? 23. What happens? So how come we actually got the result 23 by adding the two numbers? Now let's see if we commit any mistake. Let's run it again and enter first number, say for example 4. Enter second number, for example 6. Now the result should be 10. Here what comes the result? 46. Now see the issue here. This program is not actually adding the two numbers. It's concatenating the two numbers. See what happens here. What does concatenation means? My first number was 2, my second number was 20, my second number was 3. So the result should be 5. But what happens? It's actually joining those two numbers. That is 2 and 3 becomes 23. Similarly here 4 and 6, the result should be 10, but it's concatenating it, and the result is 4 and 6. It's just joining them, combining them. Why is it so? Remember when I earlier said that input function always returns a string, not numbers. So what happens when I am passing a value that is, for example 2 in number 1, and in the number 2 I am passing, say for example 4. The result should be 6 actually, right? But what happens? Strings don't follow mathematical operations or mathematical rules. Say for example I am adding a plus b. Can someone tell me what will be the result? This will be a b. Now this thing happens here. That is called as concatenation, because strings don't add, they concatenate. Similarly in the example of 2 and 4, that's what happens with our program 2. What were our two inputs? That is 2 and 3, right? 2 and 3. What happens? They concatenate and give us 23. That is 23. This happens when we don't mention the data type before the input function. Then the program will treat each the individual variable as strings, and the idea of your program fails here, because in actual you want to add those two numbers, but in reality what happens? They treat it as strings, and strings don't add, they concatenate. So what will be the correct approach here? Simply we will have to mention the data type here, which we said earlier. See, we simply will write int, simply start the bracket, write the data type int here, and then start the brackets, and after that, okay, similarly here also we will write int and start the brackets and then close it. That's it. Now let's see the result. By just mentioning the data types here, we are telling the program that they are not strings anymore, they are numbers. And now the numbers need to be added, not the strings. So let's run the program again. Something is wrong here. this. I will have to remove this. Let's run the program again. Enter first number, say for example 5. Enter second number 5, or enter second number, that is 5. The result is 10. Initially, if we didn't add those two, what will be the result here? The result will be 55 here, because they were treated as strings. But here, when we add the data types before the input functions, now they treat it as numbers, and the result is 10. Let's make it more visually appealing by telling your result is, that's it. Again, type the number. Something is wrong here, that is the comma. Again, run the program. For example 40, second number will be, say for example 60. Your result is 100. Cool, right? This is how our input function works. That's all for today. The use of input function in Python and how to use input. So see you until next lecture. Thank you so much for being with me.